Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I would like to welcome you all to the module of Islam and modern politics. I've been teaching this module for in-house students and distance students. I can start with emphasizing that this module is very interesting module. Of course, I do realize that anything related to politics would be very interesting. For Muslims and for non-Muslims as well, who want to know more about Islam, in fact, usually they come across many different political issues. In introducing this module to our students, we realize that the students have some views over Islam and politics. And they have many different issues related to Islam and modernity. Many different questions about Islam and Islamic civilizations. Many different questions as well about how Muslims nowadays are tackling politics, how they are interacting with the concept of the state, the concept of democracy, the concept and understanding of political parties. So we have, in fact, very rich module where we would expect, in fact, the students to enrich their knowledge if they have specific background about Islam and modern politics, but in the same time, we would expect the students gaining this kind of knowledge through many different ways and methods. One of the main thing that we have to be aware from the very beginning, that the students, whether they are in-house or distance students, they have to take this module seriously. And when we say they have to take this module seriously, it means we expect the students to meet specific standards, specific criteria, where we can help, in fact, the students to get through this module successfully with a lot of knowledge. Now, this kind of someone may come across and ask, what are the expectations? We are talking about the expectations, and we are talking about the standards, we are talking about assessment criteria. We have to be aware from the very beginning that we are talking about academic life, how the students can commit themselves with the academic standards. In order, in fact, to meet the academic standards and the academic requirements, we have to take the broad understanding of the academic life, the broad understanding of the academic courses. We have to understand that when we tackle academic studies, it means we have to start to think in different way. We have to give ourselves much wider understanding of the issues surrounding us. And I would imagine that the students, in fact, would have some questions with this regard, where I am, in fact, today more than happy to answer those questions and to go even into the units of the module, where we can discuss some headlines, discuss some principles related to the module, but firstly and most importantly, considering the academic criteria and the academic standards. And I would like really to ask you if you have any questions where I can help you in finding the good answers and maybe taking this further to different areas in this module.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khanfar, for your very helpful introduction. I do have a few questions regarding the academic standards. You talked about that there are specific standards and criteria. What type of criteria do you expect from the students? What type of academic standards do you expect?
Well, in fact, we are not talking about complicated academic procedures, because we have, as you are already aware, we have activities and we have review questions. For the students to be able to deliver a good academic work, in fact, they have to be aware that we have something called referencing. And when we say referencing, it means we are talking about academic references. And we are not asking the students, in fact, to use the references just for luxurious purposes. In fact, this is just to get an idea how the students are progressing and how the students are tackling their academic missions. Because if the students didn't show us that they are reading a lot of materials related to the topic, related to the activity, or related to the review questions, we wouldn't be able, in fact, to give them fair marks. We wouldn't be able to assess them upon to the academic standards. So when we say we expect the students, for example, to give a good answer, to give a clear answer, we expect the students to support this argument in the questions or the activities in reliable academic references. And here where we can differentiate between the serious students and the students who are not taking their study seriously. So the mission is simple, in fact, although it needs maybe extra work, but it is simple in the same time. Why I am saying it is simple? Because we would make sure all the time that the student is benefited from the reading. He is reflecting, or she is reflecting, the readings on the paper where we can judge the students. We don't have much of personal contact with the students, so we wouldn't be able to judge the students unless the students really reflect themselves in the proper academic way on the papers or on the screen. This is where we can tell that that the students partially meeting the expectations we designed for them from the very beginning.
As you know, the students, they need to complete 3 activity questions and 3 review questions each week for 12 weeks. Now,
for 11 weeks.
For 11 weeks, and the 12th unit is a revision unit.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to know roughly how many references should we use in our questions, and do we need to put a bibliography at the end of our file when we upload this on the system?
This is a very good question. The answer would be as many references used in your answer or your activity, it means securing better marks. Better marks, not because it's all about marks. It's about, in fact, differentiating between good students and bad students. In this case, the students who are committing themselves, in fact, with the academic standards, and the students who are not committing themselves up to the academic standards. And if we say, for example, that one of the students used 10 references, it means that the students went deeply in reading about this specific topic, covering the topic from different angles. It means we can trust his opinion and his analysis in better way than the other students who are not using, for example, any reference. But according to the academic standards, we can't tolerate any MA student from really using the references. And the references should be, in fact, related to the topic. The references should be somehow updated, and keeping the current knowledge in the field of the topic. And we have to understand also that the technique used in using the references should be in academic way, where you don't use many of quotations, for example. You don't try to plagiarize, copy paste. This is a very bad practice, and in fact it might cost you losing the whole module. So you don't need to do that, and you do have a mission to prove that you are a serious student and you can deliver your activities and review questions, and at the end of the day the final assignment as well, in a proper academic way.
And do you expect a bibliography at the end of the question?
Yes, this will even make it better academically. It would help as well in the marking assessment.
Okay, so what would you advise the set minimum of referencing that we should use?
Well, there is no limit. Sometimes I this is from my own personal experience. Sometimes I find an assignment for publication just 5 pages, 6 pages, 3 pages just really for bibliography and references. So sometimes there is no limit. More references, it means you are proving that you did read thoroughly about this, and we would consider you as a trustworthy researcher. And you are not a student anymore, by the way. Undergraduate students, or the people who enroll for undergraduate, we call them students, but MA you are a researcher, so you have to start to think how to build your academic argument. Building your academic argument needs, in fact, references, intensive references, in fact, where you can show how really a good researcher you are.
Now, do these references, do they have to be from books, or is it possible for us to use materials such as journals and websites? What about newspaper articles, and is there specific newspapers that we can and we can't reference from, for example?
Well, newspapers, as far as you are getting the information well documented, like articles or from columnists or news by itself from the newspaper, this is perfectly fine. Websites, I would be very careful in using the website. I have to scrutinize the website and to see whether it is a reliable website. Is it something I can trust from the academic point of view? The other things, journals is very important to use. Journals articles, because usually they are in fact updating us about the specific knowledge rising in this specific field. So it's very important to use as many as you can, which is nowadays, in fact, we have the open resources. Everything is published online, or many things open online. And in the Islamic College, we have this facility, JSTOR. We have the admin would be helping in providing some of the chapters if needed. But in general, I would advise the students, for example, to use Google Books, as I said, JSTOR, where you have sometimes hundreds of articles written about a specific topic, especially in modern or Islam and modern politics. So no limit about the references, but we have to be very careful about the quality. Don't ever think to use, for example, Wikipedia. It's good that you have asked this question, because Wikipedia, it is something like self-edited. Everyone can intervene and add any information which would be, in fact, like related to specific ideology, specific political personal view. We need to deal with something more reliable. The published articles in the journals usually scrutinized, be reviewed, so you would find yourself, in fact, providing reliable and trustworthy information.
I wanted to ask which style of referencing should we use?
In the Islamic College, we use Harvard style.
And do you expect us to put down the page numbers also, or will the author and the year be sufficient?
Well, in the bibliography or the list of references, we need you to put all the information, according, of course, to Harvard style. We don't usually ask for page number unless you use the specific information from that specific page. So if you derive the specific information from a specific book or article, so you have to mention this page. But if you take the whole idea from the whole article, it's enough for us just to see the name of the author and the year of publication.
Okay, I think you've answered all of my questions regarding the references. If you can kindly just give me like a brief summary of the module or of Unit 1, if that's possible.
Yeah, of course. In fact, in this module, as I said, it is a broad module. It is wide. We have a variety of topics and subject to be covered. And who knows, when you write your assignment or activities, you find yourself covering in new different areas which you never, in fact, comprehended before this module. So we would find ourselves, for example, Islamic ideals and historical realities. We would be going through this kind of topics to see the idealism, to see the differences between politics as a theory and politics in practice. We would see how Islam and the prophets and the first Muslim generations dealt with the politics. Did they deal with politics, and what is our review about this? And usually when we take or we consider discussing this kind of topics, usually we try to be as critical as we can, because it's not enough really just to describe the history. It is very important to derive facts, to analyze and to give your own view, which usually is supposed to be a critical views, where we can find your contribution there. We will see early Islam and how early Islam dealt with politics. Was there any kind of politics? Did they know about politics? Did they really have an open discussion as we are doing nowadays about politics? For example, did they realize that democracy was there, or they didn't recognize the democracy, or they initiated their own democracy in our modern language? Caliphates. We'll be going through the political structure in the caliphates, the state, how the state was formed, how the hierarchical construction. We will be going through Umayyads, Abbasids, how every dynasty dealt with politics. Did they really adopt others? They borrowed something from the others, or from the Romans, for example, from Persians, or did they create their own pattern of politics? It's also about politics and legal system. Politics and how legal system affected the politics. Is there any serious connection between politics and legal system? And this is, of course, would be judged, scrutinized, criticized as well, based on our Islamic views and Islamic thoughts. What's the position of politics in both caliphate? What had happened? Is there any serious development? Is anything related to politics and the decline of the Islamic civilization? What is the relation between what had happened before 1400 years and the effects, the impacts on our current political issues and our current political situation? So in general, this is how the first unit would be. It means we will try to initiate many different ideas about the link between the Islam and politics, and the establishment of politics in Islam, and to see how the Prophet, whether the Prophet Muhammad was a religious leader, just a messenger, or he was political leader as well. This is very important to understand, because if we understand this, we would be able, in fact, to go further in analyzing the Islamic political thoughts. We didn't know whether Islamic political thought was there. Were there many people working in politicians in the first Muslim generations, the community of Al-Madinah? If anything happened to the citizenship concept, did the people recognize this? Did the Prophet initiate something like this? All these questions would be, in fact, subject to our discussion and subject to our analysis and debate alongside all the units of Islam and modern politics.
For someone who doesn't really know much about the political structure of Islam or politics that is taking place in the region, would this, at the end of this module, would the student have a good idea of the political landscape surrounding Islam and the region?
It is a very interesting question. In fact, yes, I would argue, or strongly argue actually, that if you take this module seriously, if you do try thoroughly to search in this area, you would be, in fact, gaining a robust knowledge. Robust knowledge means that you will be surprised how many political parties initiated in the Islamic histories, and all of them, in fact, were relying on the Islamic religious theories, but in the same time contradicting other religious political parties, where you would find, for example, many political parties and many political movements which they are similar to what's happening nowadays, what we can see nowadays from the Islamists or the Islamic political parties, where we would find the opposition in Islam was there. It was widely recognized and widely initiated, but how to deal with this was different story, and probably you would have a wider understanding of the whole landscape of Islam and politics, and how Islam in fact could be adapted with the modern thought of politics.
Thank you for your answer. I also wanted to ask you if myself, for example, if I have a specific political ideology, in the final essay, if I speak about my personal political ideology and I disregard all the other political ideologies that are available, how would my piece of work be assessed?
Look, as far as you are in fact meeting the academic standards, you are building academic argument, you are trying to establish an academic discussion, your assignment will be assessed based on academic standards. So you are supporting your discussion and argument in reliable academic references, whether you agree with them or you disagree with them. You are scrutinizing them to show that they were mistaken, for example, or to support what they are arguing for. So as far, we don't ask the students about their religion, their faith, their political ideology. It's not really something we would be concerned regarding our students. All what we are concerned is seeing something produced in academic way. If you produce something in academic way, believe me, you will be assessed or highly assessed in a positive way. Because if someone offered or introduced, for example, like a final assignment, and this final assignment just written in the newspaper style, no references, all what you are writing is about your own view, you don't argue, you don't bring other arguments into the discussion, into your assignment, this wouldn't be really considered academic work. But if you are using, for example, 20, 30 or maybe 40 references, and you are bringing a lot of discussions, you are enriching that area by your own contribution, certainly, even if you are reflecting your own personal ideology, this would be most welcome in regard to the academic assessment and academic criteria.
I wanted to ask whether current issues, especially in the Middle East, would they be discussed in this module, especially the issues surrounding the region in modern day, such as Iraq or Syria?
Yeah, certainly this would be part of our discussion, and we would expect the students even touching this kind of topics in their writings, and we would like to bring a lot of discussion on the table. Middle East now is occupying, in fact, a very wide space in Islam and politics and the argument of the modernity. So modern politics is there, Middle East is there, and how we can judge this based on the Islamic political thoughts would be, in fact, part of our or not part, a very important part in our discussion.
As you may know, most of the politics that we know and the politics that take place, whether it's verbal politics or violence or conflicts, etc., most of it we see it on TV and we hear about it and we see visual effects of it rather than reading it in books, especially the events that's taking place at the moment. Perhaps maybe much older events such as maybe the occupation of Palestine, we would read it in books because at that 1948, for example, there was no TV. What about if we hear, for example, a politician making a speech? These words, they wouldn't be present in books. How can we put that in our essays? How can we reference these words?
It is very simple. As far as you provide well documented information, we will welcome that. It means you put, for example, the TV channel. You would, if there is an archive, for example, something coming from an archive, it would be as documented as other references. If you put the TV channel, what channel, like BBC, like LBC, like whatever. The most important thing to provide dates, to provide the name of the channel, and if possible, the occasion or the event where this speech was delivered or given to the people.
What about our own political analysis? What, for example, we believe is going to happen in the future? Can we put this?
Yeah. Well, this would be more than welcome, because we would understand that the students are very much engaged in the discussion and they have something to say. Of course, because we judge you based on what you put in on the paper. So reflecting yourself in a very critical, analytical way, it is something would be very much appreciated.
Thank you for the useful information. I wanted to know whether there will be this question and answer session more often, or whether this is going to be the only one.
No, in fact, we committed ourselves as for distance learning, in fact, and for distance students, to have this kind of discussion, brief discussion. We would, because we don't have, and as well as the other students, in fact, enough time to listen all the time just for lectures. So we will have this discussion with brief answers, and if we can take it further, we would be in fact providing this on on our website, on the module wall, where the students can be benefited from this and send us questions, or send us if they would like specific information, specific analysis, or if they have something really to send us when they read the units and when they start the activities, or before they start the activities. If they want to send us by the email some specific questions to be discussed and recorded, we will be more than happy to do so.
And should we discuss with you first before we make a decision regarding the titles of our essays?
Well, this would be much appreciated, because simply we can advise you how to make it more academic. We do believe that every student has potential. This is why we can see you enrolled in our program. But in the same time, when you interact with your supervisor or your lecturer, it means you are in fact gaining more experience how to follow the safe track when you write. You don't need to write something not specific. You don't want to write something and to end up with a lot of criticism. So it's much better for you to approach us by the email, because we are available all the time on the email, and certainly we would be giving you academic advices regarding your titles, your proposals, and so on.
Thank you for all the useful information that you've provided us today, and I look forward to hearing more about the module and engaging in the module and studying, and to speak to you soon.
Thank you very much for your time and your questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you.